Hello everyone, welcome back to Lab4crypto. We have entered September, which historically is one of the weakest months for Bitcoin and the crypto market, and everybody is anticipating that Bitcoin will drop to prices below 95k. So through this video, I'm going to check the data with you and see if that is possible. What is the likelihood, let's say, of Bitcoin actually moving to higher prices? What I believe can be a very good accumulation point for Bitcoin and actually show you what I am doing with my portfolio. And you will be surprised to see through this video that something that I already said on Twitter and on the private Telegram group, that I actually believe that Bitcoin will never drop below 100k until the bull run ends. So I only expect Bitcoin to drop below 100k only when we enter bear market. Of course, this is my opinion and not financial advice, but it's better for us to check the data, see what from my perspective it's prime accumulation points, and how I think the market will move in Q4 of 2025. So let's dive in immediately. I'm going to use also my latest article, which I wrote 5 days ago, which I encourage you to put your email here so you will receive it immediately. We have more than 100,000 people that have already subscribed to receive it. It's free, and it will give you a lot of knowledge regarding the markets. And also, if you want to go to the next level, of course, you can join the platform, which when you log in, you will have access to thousands of charts. You will be able to know almost everything regarding on-chain and off-chain data, be able to check the risk of various coins every day. So you will be able to make moves and much more. Anyhow, let's dive in. Currently, Bitcoin price is at 111k. We had a beautiful bounce on the bull market support band, which that is amazing. That is why you'll see on the article that I actually said that I am accumulating on the bull market support band. That is here. So I said that at 107.5k I'm going to accumulate heavily. And if you go to the Telegram, you'll see that I have accumulated Bitcoin at 108k, so just above the bull market support band, which for me it's a crucial level for bulls to hold. And as I said, because 100k I think is going to be a prime, let's say, psychological level um, for traders and investors in general. So that is why I think Bitcoin will never drop below 100k again. But let's first go to the data to see if Bitcoin is in a level which can sustain a move to the upside. If we go, let's follow a bit the article and then I will go directly to the platform. So you will see here that the fair value for Bitcoin now, if we check the price power law model, which is this red line, actually is at 107.5k, which, if you remember from the article, it was aligning perfectly with the bull market support band, which was again at 107.5k, which from the platform easily you can check that from the dashboard, which you can see the bull market support band. It's a band between the 20-week SMA and the 21 EMA, and both are really basically close to each other. And that is why I thought that 107.5k is going to be a prime accumulation level, because also Bitcoin risk is low. It's at 39, was at 30. Let's say if we go to the graph, it's rising slowly. Now you can see that it's reaching a plateau, but it was close to 35, 36%. Now it's at 39, which again, it's a risk level that I was willing to accumulate. Because do not forget, your risk tolerance is what is guiding you to make moves. For example, I also converted some of my Ethereum 3 days ago. If you go, let's have a look also on Telegram so you will see an example. This is what I did on 31st of August, and on 28th, for example, I reduced my allocation on Chrome. Anyhow, you will be able to see how I'm navigating the market, but of course, you can receive the weekly reports that I am making on the newsletter and on the blog. But immediately on the Telegram Premium, you will see exactly when I'm making the move. And I am explaining, of course, with graphs and data. So my point is that Bitcoin was at point which I was willing to accumulate a lot at the bull market support band because we had the risk which was low. We had the fair value of BTC to be at exactly that point. And that is something that we saw that Bitcoin bounced on the bull market support band very well at 107, basically. And that was also aligning with the lower Bollinger Band, which was at 106.5. So therefore, that is why I allocated 15% of my capital at that point on the spot immediately. I wanted to see if the band was going to hold and add more, but if we're going to drop lower, I wanted to check a bit more the data and decide if I was going to accumulate even more or decide to exit. For me, to starting to be a bit fearful about the market is if we lose the 100k point. There is something that I will starting to be concerned and starting to think to exit the market and re-enter when I think it's appropriate. Of course, as the risk is updated daily, I was going to check also what the risk level was saying. And the risk we saw lately that it's rising slowly, even though the price is bound. And if we check also the on-chain data, you will see a lot of sorry, I kicked the camera. We saw a lot of whales starting to move capital from Bitcoin to Ethereum. And that we're starting to see some big activity on on-chain metrics, which for me, because the market traditionally moves from Bitcoin to Ethereum, then to mid caps and then low caps. However, I think this is not going to be played as people think it's going to be played. For me, because people think that September is going to be really bad, because if we check this table, you will see more red than green. But I believe actually September will be green for Bitcoin. And I think capital will be rotated from Ethereum to Bitcoin to sustain a bull run. Because in the end, I don't think that we can have the altcoin season and the bull run that we want when Bitcoin is at 110k. I think we want Bitcoin to move to higher values and then starting to see the rotation of capital. This is how I think is going to happen. But of course, no one knows what is going to happen in the future. Therefore, that is why I'm checking the data daily and making moves. For me, the bull market support band is a really good point to think to start entering the market if you are not happy with your Bitcoin position or if you just want to allocate more. And Ethereum was not the best point for me now at these prices to accumulate because also risk was, if we check Ethereum, let's have a look. We saw that at 400.8k the risk was at 65%, and now we see the risk starting to drop. Let's zoom. So that is why I rotated almost 20% of my capital here from Ethereum to Bitcoin. to actually protect my capital. And also, I rotated 4%, as you saw on the Telegram before, because I wanted to protect my gains, because I accumulated most of my Ethereum at 1.8K, which again is something that you will be able to see if we go and check Twitter, which I said it on 11th of April. That's why I have it pinned so people will be able to see it. You will see that if we check the date, I said that when Ethereum reached the bottom range estimation, basically this is an equation which calculates the bottom prices of various coins, and you will see that when it touched the -1 standard deviation, which historically this is what Ethereum is doing, then it's a good time to accumulate. And you will see it here that I said it on Twitter. And from the platform, from people that asking me how they can find it, they can go here and choose the coin that we were able to create an equation to calculate the bottom range that someone should be has higher chance to accumulate and go to higher values than lower values. And if we check, for example, Chainlink, I can see how beautiful the bottom range equation managed to find the bottom value from Chainlink. See how it was bouncing on the bottom value, which was at 12.14 cents, and now we are at 23. And of course, the equation, how we came up with the equations, you will find it on the description below. Moving forward, let's go to the blog. So just note that these blue boxes is basically the post-halving years, and you will see that usually Bitcoin on the post-halving years on August, we had green months, but actually August closed in red, as you will see. And for me, because we only have 3 data points, it's just guess. So that is why I'm not giving too much value on these metrics. But I understand that there is seasonality in the market because, of course, things change as we move and Bitcoin becomes more mature. And you will see that on the last years, actually September was green and not red. But as I said, it's too soon to say that the probability of this occurring is higher. And that is why I'm using all the other metrics to make my moves. And all the metrics for Bitcoin was saying that the probability of us moving higher is much more than actually going lower. And that is why I decided to accumulate, and you will see it as I said up off. Let's find also the point so you will be able to see it as well here. Yeah. And also the short-term bubble risk on the, let's go on the platform so you will be able to see it. It was saying that the short-term risk for Bitcoin was much lower, for example, than Ethereum. That is why I decided to accumulate BTC. So usually when we come close to this green line and slightly below it, it's a really good time to accumulate when you are in a bull run. For example, the last time that this happened, let's have a look. Bitcoin price was 76K, and that was on April 2025. A month later was 111. And of course, then we went to 120. So I had so many indicators to tell me that Bitcoin had a higher probability of moving higher than lower. And that is why I decided to accumulate. Although I know if you are on Twitter, everyone was saying that Bitcoin was going to 95K and lower. And usually when you don't have data in front of you, you tend to believe this kind of statements. But for me, as I don't check them at all, to be honest, and I'm only following the data, I was seeing that whales basically were starting to accumulate heavily. So you will see that from more than a year now, no, from December, let's say, until today, wallets that are holding 100 BTC to 100K are up into the right. So we don't see a slowdown. Of course, you will see some whales which they want to offload some of their coins, because in the end they were having their coins for so many years and they are allowed to take some profits off the table, because in the end everybody is making the moves to for, let's say, a better life, for better future. So when you reach a point which you are happy with what you have gained, of course you are going to exit the market. And that, for example, if we see it, was a point where we saw big whales offload some of their BTC, and that's of course starting to show the drop from 120 to values of 108, and you can see the drop. And of course that is why it's good for you to monitor what whales are doing, big whales especially. But for me it's more important to check what people are doing which have smaller accounts, for example 100 BTC to 1K, because you will see the distribution of Bitcoin from huge whales to whales that are now catching up and they want to have a piece of the Bitcoin network and the freedom that BTC is giving you. Let's go to here. If I missed something, on the Bollinger Band is something that we touched because we saw it on the crypto market overview. And I'll leave you to also check the article yourself. And we were in a point where there is no hype on Bitcoin, which that is really good, because if we check, for example, the Google Trends, you will see that we are almost at yearly lows. So there is no hype around people typing the word Bitcoin, which when usually that happens is where there is a huge influx of retail coming into the industry, but we have not seen that yet, only briefly. And when I see there is no hype in the market, we are close to our fair value. Risk is at the levels that I'm happy with accumulating BTC. We are close to the bull market support band and the lower Bollinger Band. And also the short-term bubble risk was low. Then it was no-brainer for me to accumulate BTC at 108K. So I tried through this video to explain you how I am navigating the market. Of course, as I said, nothing is financial advice. You need to do your own homework, and that is why we have all this data for you to explore. And to sum up, I think we're going to have a rotation of capital from Ethereum to BTC. But although we can see some altcoins starting to slowly move to higher values because they need lower amount of capital to move to higher values than Ethereum, which is the second in the line. And then as we enter October, November, December is where I expect to have a huge move to the upside. And of course, I expect it to move also in Q1 at least of 2026 because the Fed was not they have not ended QT basically, and they have not reduced the rates, were still really high. Do not forget that interest rates in the US are still at 4.5%, which is quite high. Therefore, as we're starting to see this easing, I expect the market to perform really well. And I expect it also to move a bit in 2026. And I know that when we get closer to the end, actually it's more difficult to start taking profits because it's a point where everybody thinks that prices are going to go to much, much higher values. And then you see these sudden moves to the downside. And do not forget that altcoins can have a drop of more than 90%, and BTC historically, let's say around 80%. And with the ETFs and the adoption from institutions, let's drop it to 60 or 50%, which is quite a lot. So be educated, try to have tools to be able to make moves when the time comes, because in hindsight you will say that, oh yeah, that was the top, but I couldn't see it. But when you have objective tools which they don't care what you're feeling or what you're thinking, like our flagship risk metric, which I think maybe is one of the most advanced equations in the industry, will help you make the decisions that are best suited for you. And always do not forget, we have the videos below which you can see how you can use this metric and all of the metrics in the platform, because in the end we wanted to help you understand why you're making some moves and not blindly follow anyone, not me, not anyone else on Twitter or in any other platform. I hope you enjoy the video. Please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. And sorry about my voice, as I'm a bit sick. So see you next time.